everyone, it's Renee Jarrett from Not Sorry for This Story, and today I have the privilege of interviewing and having with me Sarah Choujounian from, yes, hello, Sarah.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
Yes, I'm so great. It's Sarah from Nurses Against Lockdowns and Canadian Frontline Nurses. She is the founder of both. And many of you may have heard of these two different organizations, specifically during the pandemic, as it rose out of that time and met a very specific need. So, for those who don't know about either of those organizations, can you tell us, Sarah, what was the need exactly that was met during that time? Like, why did it rise in that particular hour?
Right. So I was one of the first nurses to speak out in October of 2020, and I had been waiting for other nurses to speak out, and it never happened. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to be the leader. I'm going to go ahead and create Nurses Against Lockdowns at that time. And
Mm,
the mission was to unite nurses, educate the public, and bring the ethics back into healthcare. Because I know I say a lot, there were many nurses who thought like me, but we were so scared to speak up. It was like insane,
mm,
the way we were like shut down when asking questions and things like that. And it was very obvious we were going to lose our jobs. So I decided to, I waited and waited for someone to come out and so that I can follow, and it never happened. And so that's why Nurses Against Lockdowns happened. I decided that I was going to take this into my own hands. And
mm,
so Nurses Against Lockdowns was born in, I would say, October 2020. And
mm.
then I spoke out, and I thought all the nurses it was a crowd of about 10,000 that day. And I thought all the nurses in the crowd are going to come up on stage, and we're going to unite, and we're going to end this right now.
Yeah.
And so that didn't happen.
Okay.
But another nurse called Kristen Nagel, who you might know, well, I know you know, but the
Yes.
viewers might know, reached out to me. And we joined actually first with nurses in the United States and founded Global Frontline Nurses, and came back from that. We met in Washington, D.C. That's
Mm,
another complete story.
yeah.
And when we came back, we were going to be the pilot chapter, so Canadian Frontline Nurses. And so that's when me and Kristen co-founded Canadian Frontline Nurses, and we were known to be advocates for medical freedom,
Yeah.
wanting not anti-vaxxers,
Yes.
but making sure that people had all the information necessary to make an informed decision.
Yes. Advocates for, say that phrase again,
Uh,
advocates for
Proud advocates for medical freedom.
medical freedom. Yes.
Yes.
And really, many of us didn't understand how much we needed that freedom until the pandemic came and we had taken some things for granted, and then it was challenged our medical freedom. And so this past week, Canadian Frontline Nurses was back in the spotlight, back in the news. And can you tell us what that was about for those who hadn't heard?
Yes. So unfortunately, Canadian Frontline Nurses kind of collapsed in 2023 due to some other cases. But we were actually in 2022, February 2022, we were part of the Freedom Convoy. And so we were boots on the ground there. Kristen was there the whole 3 weeks, videotaping everything from the ground. I was there every other weekend, and Canadian Frontline Nurses was there representing, supporting our truckers. And we were very happy because we've been waiting for,
Yeah.
not just nurses and doctors, because we've been waiting for other groups to do this. So we were really excited. We were there, and people were handing us donations, and we were donating it to the truckers. Kristen was actually doing this on video. And
Mm,
so, and not too long after that, as y'all might know, the Emergencies Act was put up, and we feared that we were going to be targeted. And so we took quick action, and we were actually the first ones to go after the federal government for putting up the Emergencies Act. So, and as you might also know, that case was won, but there was us, Canadian Frontline Nurses, and there was also other groups that were going after him. The other groups were legal groups, and so the judge had no problem listening to them, but did not want to listen to us, who were boots on the ground, a group representing the people, the protesters.
Yes.
And so we were dismissed. We were said to be offensive to the judge and too controversial. And so obviously our lawyers had put a lot of work into this. And so Justin Trudeau appealed the fact that he wasn't supposed to put the Emergencies Act. And so as he appealed, we also appealed the fact that we were not heard, because that in itself is unlawful. And so we were back in court to tell this new panel, these judges, why we wanted to be heard and why we were there.
Okay, yes, okay. And I believe that was this past week, so Tuesday and Wednesday. So what was the outcome of that, or what's the present status?
Yes, so we don't really know the outcome, but I can say it was quite entertaining. I was there in person. First, Justin Trudeau's lawyers went through, and I can say that they had zero good arguments. And so it didn't go too well for them. This is my opinion, because we don't know anything yet. And so after that, it was us. And so Alex and David, two of our lawyers, both went. Alex went in first, and and spoke about like why we were there, and then David went second, and gave arguments on why we should be heard. And I think they did a fantastic job. I was so proud of them. At least somewhat the people were heard in that little bit of like 10-15 minutes that David had. And I believe that the judges were receptive to what we were saying. And so I believe that we might have a chance to be heard at least. And so I think it went quite well.
Yes.
So now we wait. We have to wait, and obviously, as we wait, we have to get ready, because then we're going to have to finally present what we were supposed to present the first time.
Okay.
So,
and the first time was when exactly? So you were denied sharing. Say that again?
Yes, we were denied, and I can't remember exactly when it was.
That's fine. The outcome now, you're expected to hear about that when?
Well, that's another thing. We never know when.
No, okay.
Hoping soon, but could be months, right? There's also the other lawyers that went through, and same arguments as before, why they thought the Emergencies Act should not be put up.
Yes.
But it depends on the judges.
Yes, okay. Yes, I did get to view the court proceedings for one portion of the day, and yes, the government's lawyers did take the stance that, of course, it was justified. The Emergencies Act was justified, and they really sought to go into Judge Mosley's decision about it, I believe, being rendered unconstitutional. And so that was the premise, at least on the government side. But yes, Canadian Frontline Nurses is just one of the groups, but you represent a lot of Canadians, of course, that didn't get to have their voices heard. So may you prevail in that. And yes, may there be a good judgment for the people. We're looking for that.
Absolutely, because that's what it was all about. We were there in Ottawa for them to listen to us and to be heard, and we didn't get to do that.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, Trudeau suddenly had COVID, left, and then we got attacked, right? And so it's for justice. We should be heard. All the people that lost their jobs,
Yeah.
lost their families, friends, health, some people died.
Mm.
And so we have to, there needs to be some sort of accountability and justice for those people.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
a good point. That's a good point. And of course that just makes me think of the nurse in you, the caregiver in you that yes, looking out for the people. And so
Yes.
can we roll back a little bit and give us a little history on nursing? Why did you decide to get into that field? And how long had you been a nurse for?
Oh, that's a long story, but I found nursing. I was married to someone who wanted me to be an accountant, and it was so not my thing, but I was one of those people pleaser, and I was like, what do you want me to do? Accounting, what is that? I'll do it.
Okay, okay.
And that didn't work out too well for me. I did not like accounting at all, although I'm very good at math. And so I was told to take a year off, and then I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to do Doctors Without Borders.
Mhm.
I always loved helping people, but I was also someone who had a lot of trauma and didn't see a lot of worth in myself, and helping others put value onto me.
Yeah,
And so during that year that the university had told me to take off, I actually went to do the PSW course, so personal support worker, kind of caregiver.
yeah.
And it was like a 6 month course, not even at that time. And I loved it. Like when we got into the clinical, I was like, I just loved everything about it. I was like, forget accounting. And the next year I applied into nursing and I graduated with honors. I actually,
Mm.
even from my pre-grad, I was hired from my pre-grad. So I had to get a temporary license before getting my real license. I was already
Wow.
hired. Like I loved what I did. And
Yeah.
I know I was a good nurse.
Yes. And it's clear that already you, even from before, you were excelling. That's
Yeah,
great. That's great.
yeah.
So you served officially, worked officially as a registered nurse for how many years?
So I was a registered practical nurse.
Yeah.
And so since 2004, so I practiced until um, like the end of 2020, so about 16 years, I would
Okay.
say. But I
Now,
would also say that the 3 last years, what we did, that was nursing too. That was actually advocating as a nurse, and it's the
yeah.
role that I really like as a nurse.
Yeah.
So I believe I've been a nurse for longer than that, and I'm
Yeah.
still a nurse at heart.
Yes, yeah. So the aspect of you mentioned about, okay, officially it's been about 16 years or so. Um, but then the certified part came to an end. And now let's explain that part of your story in regards to now even what you're facing and the challenge, the court challenge you're personally facing.
Right. So what happened is that when I spoke out, I was put under several investigations as we kept going with Canadian Frontline Nurses by the College of Nurses of Ontario, because they said that we weren't allowed to speak about anything and we had to go with public health measures no matter what.
Hmm.
But I had learned and understood very well in ethics class, the first thing that we learn as nurses is that when the medical industry turns against the people, it's our jobs to, I quote, agitate and advocate for what is best for our communities. And so I was doing exactly what I was told to do, and I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, and I still really don't think I'm doing anything wrong.
Hmm.
But doing that, I was put under several investigations, and one which has become a disciplinary hearing. Um,
Yeah,
and this case goes back to 2020. So Nurses Against Lockdowns, before we gathered into Canadian Frontline Nurses. And so they're using me as the example uh,
yeah,
here in Canada. And my case may have precedence in freedom of speech in nursing. So it's a very important case. It started in March 2023, and it was supposed to be 4 days, our experts against theirs.
yeah,
And it's been literally 30 days. It just ended in December.
yeah.
My experts, Dr. Stephen Pellick and Dr. Byron Bridle, were hardly qualified. And so most of my evidence after 30 days has not even gone in.
Mhm.
Um,
Now, one moment, you just mentioned that they were hardly qualified. You mean that they were not accepted as witnesses?
they weren't expected as experts.
Yes.
So Byram was allowed to cover 2 out of the 12 issues that he was supposed to cover, and Dr. Pellick for 1.5 of the 4 things. So most of my evidence has not even gone in.
Okay.
So this is how corrupt this. It's been very corrupt. It's been all about defaming us. They called Dr. Byron Bridle a vet who has no idea what he's doing. Like it's been a mess. But we think that this might actually help us in the appeal. So we don't foresee winning at this level. The panel literally consists of 3 registered nurses that are part of the disciplinary committee.
Okay.
And one public member anointed by the government, appointed, sorry, by the government.
Yes.
And they keep going with the what the lawyer is saying, right? And so they're not going to go against it because obviously, look at what's happening to me. So we intend to appeal it, and this is very important. We want to take it up to the as high as possible, and so we're
Okay.
just waiting now. And what's really scary for me about this case is that they actually expect me to pay for their costs. So 4 to 5 lawyers, 30 days with all the background work. So you try to figure out how much
Mhm.
that is.
Okay.
Um, and so as we wait now, they've actually take 3 of my other investigations and sent them to the disciplinary committee. So it looks like I'm going on a new journey of a new disciplinary hearing with um, the same kind of allegations with freedom of speech that I just went through for the last year and a half. And so this is really important case, and I need help.
Okay. Now, yes. And okay, we'll get to that part in a moment. But for someone who doesn't understand, someone who hasn't tracked and doesn't know about legal proceedings and all of these different things, why exactly is it that the the college is seeking to go ahead with this court case? Like, wouldn't it be one thing just to, let's say, fire you and move on? Why is this before the courts? Is it because you're seeking to get back your license? So just for people who may not understand that
They,
piece.
so my license has expired, so I wasn't able to renew it. They do want to completely revoke my license. I'm actually not doing it for my license. I'll never work for them again. I never thought I was working for anyone. I was just
Yeah.
a nurse for myself. And so I
Yes.
don't want to be their nurse. They're so corrupt. And as a matter of fact, there's 12 allegations against me in this first case, and they're all pretty much known to be true today. But the college keeps saying I had no way of knowing in 2020. So everything I said was correct. Vaccines not safe and effective. PCR test is not a diagnosis test. There are alternatives like ivermectin or vitamin D or hydroxychloroquine. So all these things, masks can be harmful and are not effective, like all these things that we now know today, but they want peer review from 2020.
Mm.
And so, you can see how corrupt it is. But yeah, it's all about making an example out of me and making sure to let people know, don't you dare unite and organize
Okay, yeah.
and come against us.
Okay. So with that, have you found that you have quietly also received support from nurses who, okay, may not be willing to stand up as you are or in the public as you are, but they'll send you a email, they'll send you a message and say, we're totally with you. What are you finding in that regard?
Throughout the years, I can say there's thousands of nurses that reached out to us and that we tried to help, especially when the mandates came out. It was crazy how many. And yeah, I have continuous support from nurses, many who have left. But even some who are still there and want their rights to body autonomy and be able to do what's best for their patients, because we couldn't do that. And so if we can't do that, we become actually harmful to the people we try to help, and that really creates an ethical issue for nurses. So there is a lot of support. Um, people have been donating for years now.
Yes.
These are big cases and they're lasting very long. Um, but yeah, I do have a lot of support. I actually do.
That's great. That's
Thank
great.
God.
Yes. Because I think many don't realize that we um, do need the support of the community in different ways. It reminds me of someone who is a public figure, a daughter of a public figure who just put out a plea the other day, and she received criticism for doing it. And I think some people do not understand that there are those who are taking a stance and living a particular way, that they need the grassroots. They need those who will just say, yes, I believe in your cause and you're really actually representing me. And the fact that you stood up for medical freedom is really standing up for me. I remember I joked with you before, here's my merch right over my shoulder. We had actually met, Sarah and I had actually met at the Great Canadian Awakening conference in May 2023, I believe. And yes, it was an opportunity for different ones to hear about the story, but also come on board. And I have to say, anytime I've worn this hat, and I have worn it in different places, I've worn it at my mom's long-term care home. And yes, I have different ones saying to me, that's an interesting hat. Yes, all for it, all for it. So yes. But okay, Sarah, let's get down to the nitty-gritty as we wrap up. So again, for those who have no idea, they've never been in court, they've never faced anything like this, can you let us know a bit of an idea of what your legal fees are right at this time, if you'd like to disclose, or even give us a ballpark, and how people can support you?
Yes, so I could definitely give you an idea. It's quite expensive.
Mhm.
And we've done a lot of fundraising already and paid off the defamation case, but the Emergencies Act case still has a $500,000 invoice on Canadian frontline nurses. And that is just growing now as we're going for the appeal. And for so yeah, we obviously it's very expensive. And for my case, with the College of Nurses of Ontario, to give you an idea, I just received an invoice, around Christmas time, because they start doing their taxes and they have to report it. So I get to see
Yeah.
the invoices, and it was like $273,000. So that's how much I owe. But we were so blessed with these lawyers as Canadian Frontline Nurses. We went through a few. It was very difficult. It wasn't working out at all. But these lawyers have been there for us. I mean, there are a few times where they were like, you're going to have to raise more money than this, or we're going to have to stop. But they never have stopped. As long as I'm fundraising and doing everything that I can and doing these interviews and, talking to people and bringing money in, they are still standing with me and they see how important this cause is. So I feel very blessed, but they haven't received, like, not even a fraction of what they deserve. For what they're doing. They've actually lost they've lost clients because of the stance they've took and all kinds of things, right? And so I'm very grateful for them. And so, yeah, it is very important that we continue, because it is going to cost a lot of money to appeal. And there's things that are going to show up, like this happened in our defamation case with Canadian Frontline Nurses. They didn't let us appeal unless we put like a $50,000 money down to show that we had funds to pay for the costs that were already there for the other lawyers, right? The other side's lawyers. So that's going to come up. And so, yeah, we need to keep fundraising. This is not over at all. I mean, I think this is like the most important part, where we're going to appeal it and take it as high as we can. And my lawyers are willing to take it all the way to the Supreme Court. So yeah. It's a lot of money. And I tell people though, like we shouldn't be seeing this as donations. I don't like the word donation neither, although I've become very good at asking for donations. At first we were like, oh,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. If people want me to do this, I need money. I sold my house. I haven't made any money from Canadian Frontline Nurses. As a matter of fact, like, the profit I made on my house is pretty much gone. And so, trying to focus on building myself too, but I can't stop doing this. And so I tell people this is an investment in the future of our children and the future
Right.
generations.
Yes.
Because if we can't speak out and we're mandated to take things that are not necessarily good for us, or we can't have all the information and make decisions for ourselves and what goes into our body, then what do we have left and what's going to happen to our kids? So I think it's very
Mhm.
important to see it in that way. And if everybody gave like a $5 instead of buying a coffee this morning, or then we would be well above our goals. So
That's right.
some
That's right.
ideas.
Okay, that's a sharp point. And I and it's a sharp point that I fully receive. It reminds me of a comment that was made that if we had all showed up for the convoy in Ottawa, they really could not have held us back. So showing up in different ways, even with the little that you may think you have, does make a difference. And I appreciate you saying that it's not so much a donation, it's an investment. A donation is like, it's not a part of me. I'm giving to this poor people who have a cause. So it's not a part of me. Investing is, this is impacting you, even if you don't think you're seeing it on a day to day.
Yes.
All right. Where can they give to you? How can they give to you? Yes.
Yeah, so we've made it very simple. So I have a web page and all the information is there. On
Okay.
both cases, a little bit of background on me on both cases and how people can support. So the web page is Sarah forfreedom.com. So SARAH number four and freedom.com. It's as simple as that. And you can reach me through there, and yeah. That's it.
Okay. All right, last thing now. What are you currently doing these days? I know that you have another work that you are a part of, and you had mentioned about trauma, and I know you have done the work and living the life of freedom more and more each day. And so you're also leading the way for others to walk in that freedom. Can you tell us about what you're currently doing?
Yes, absolutely. Well, as I said, I do have a lot of trauma in my past, and I have been blessed enough to be given the tools and knowledge needed to start that healing journey. And I'm, learn how to stand in my truth and stand in my power. And one of the things that people often ask me is, what made you so different? Why did you speak out?
Mm,
Uh, and it's because I've done this work. And also for me, one of the things that was the most shocking is the lack of leadership in not just nursing, but everything in Canada and
mm,
globally, to be honest. And when I think about it, what made me a leader? Well, it was learning to stand in my power and learning to transcend that trauma into wisdom, which is this is part of life. This is what life is supposed to be.
mm,
We make it look like trauma is like something that happens to others and is almost not like you can't overcome it. It's not true. Trauma is actually a natural part of life, suffering, pain. The
mm,
issue that we're having in our society is that we are not transcending it into wisdom. We're not looking at it, and it's causing a lot of problem because it wants to be shown, it wants to come out in the light. And so I founded Lighting Up Dark Corners,
mm,
and I run a heal program, 10-week support group program, that teaches people about the tools and knowledge needed to start that healing journey, because it's great to go to talk therapy and a psychotherapist, but really you're in your head 24/7. So you need to learn how to redirect yourself. And I love to get like, and so that's what I'm all about, like showing people how to do that. And also like getting rid of all the shame by teaching people how this works and how there's nothing wrong with you. Your coping mechanisms were perfect
Mm.
for that's what you needed at that time. And now if we find new, better ways of coping, then, we can adjust and things like that. So it's really about empowering people to heal and rise, so that we can all stand in our power and be able to, not comply when things are not aligned with us, and not let the powers to be, you know, take our freedoms away.
Yes, empowering people to heal and rise. That sounds
Yeah,
great. And I believe you have a workshop coming up. What's the date for that one? Oh,
I
is it
do.
closed?
I do, and I actually changed it. So it's February 25th. It's a free workshop. It's online. It's a preview to my program, and you get people have gotten a lot of it out of it. Some people were in therapy for a decade, and just the free workshop gave them tools and unblocked certain things. And
Mm.
I have people that came off medications. And so it's all about going to the root cause. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's called Stand in Your Truth. I do it online, and I also offer it now in person at my house in Brampton. So one is on the February 25th from 7 to 10 p.m. And the other one is on the 27th at my place, same time, babysitting available. And people can check it out at lightingupdarkcorners.com. Send me a message, sign up. It's awesome. I love my programs. I love
Yeah.
doing them too. I heal every time I
Mm.
do it and connect, because healing is a lifetime journey. And like I always all learn from the people in my groups too. I love it.
Yes. Well, Sarah, thank you for this time. And on behalf of those who don't have the voice, won't ever get to speak to you, I want to say thank you on behalf of the community and Canadians for standing up for us, for serving us, for caring for us enough to show up. And now may this also come to you in manifold ways all across the provinces and territories. You and Kristen, Canadian Frontline nurses, and for yourself and the journey. So, really, so very thankful for you. You are a gift, and we truly are better because of the stances that different Canadians have been taking. And I will continue to say it was not in vain. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.